Hello and welcome to the video version of my journal. I'm Stephanie Rivers. Welcome to the conversation. You're watching my video journal on several platforms. So you might be watching on Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook Live, my YouTube channel, whichever platform you're on. We want to welcome you to the conversation. You can chat with us. I'm going to put the link in so you can chat with us live now, or you can finger, use your fingers if you want. But we do want you to come on in and tell us how you feel about the sentencing that former cop Kim Potter got for the unjustified killing of Daunte Wright. So if you are returning to the conversation, we want to welcome you back. And if you're new, we want to welcome you to the conversation. I'm Stephanie Rivers, and you're watching my video journal. So we're going to talk about a number of things, legal issues, whether state law or federal law or civil penalty law, which seems to be better when you are searching for justice for yourself or your family. That's what we're going to talk about after this. Hi, I'm Stephanie Rivers, and I want justice for Breonna Taylor because the police officers involved showed reckless disregard for her life and the lives of her neighbors. Her. So you're saying she essentially died on the floor right there?
Second that she got shot, she was.
Family, did the city of Birmingham, did anybody say, did the church, did anybody say there's more to
Hello and welcome to the video version of my journal. I'm Stephanie Rivers, and I am scheduled to have a guest. We're going to have an attorney who's going to come talk with us about his legal point of view on the issues that it seems like people in America, Black people in America, are facing. So what we're talking about today is another slap in the face of the collective Black America when it comes to justice, getting justice for the wrongs that we seem to face in our communities. So we know that Kim Potter, she is a former cop in the Minnesota area, and she was convicted of the manslaughter of Daunte Wright, and she just got sentenced. And her sentence is only less than 2 years. Her sentence is 16 months for the unjustified shooting. They're calling it officially manslaughter, but we in the Black community call it the unjustified shooting of an unarmed Black man. And she has been sentenced to 16 months for taking a man's life unjustifiably. And here's the thing, though. The judge that sentenced her decided to not go by the written guidelines as to what a person should get when they are sentenced to manslaughter. The written guidelines say a person should get between 6.5 to 8 years. That's what manslaughter convictions normally get. But this judge has said that she thought, she went out of her way, the judge, and let's get her. I'll just go ahead and put that picture up. This is the judge, Judge Regina Chu, in the Minneapolis courtroom where Kim Potter's sentencing was held. She said and cried about it, in fact, and said that she felt like Kim Potter did not mean to do it, and therefore, because she didn't mean to do it, therefore she should not have to spend any more. She should have special consideration in her sentencing. And so that begs another question. Do we think judges have too much control over the sentencing guidelines when they feel like the person who's being convicted or the person on trial is getting more than they deserve, which I feel crazy saying that, because it's not about what you feel, judge. It's about what the law says. And so when it comes to being Black in America, it is one thing where we as individuals and as a group are not seen as our lives are not seen as being as valuable as everyone else's. And therefore, that's how the term Black Lives Matter came about, because our lives are not seen as valuable as others. And therefore, we are victimized on a regular basis, it seems, regardless to if it's justified or not justified. When you bring people to justice, when they are charged and when they are convicted, we expect for that conviction, that level of sentencing, to be the same as it would for everyone else. But it seems like when our lives are taken and the person is a white person who takes the life of a Black person, for some reason, judges and juries seem to take more consideration of the person on trial than they do the families of the victims or the victims themselves. And so if you want to call in and talk about it, I put the link in the chat so that you can call in and talk about it. Or of course, you can use your fingers and talk about it. If you prefer to just chat about it online, then you can do that. But what to do when justice is denied? That's what we're talking about today. And I do have a guest, and who's scheduled to meet. So maybe, if he calls in, or if you're an attorney and you have some legal input that you would like to give, we would certainly like to hear about it. Because at this point, the question for me becomes, and I'm sure the question for a lot of people in the Black community is, how do we get justice if we go through the proper procedures for seeking justice? It happened. Kim Potter said that she meant to I don't even know. She meant to pull her taser on Daunte Wright. Instead, she pulled her Glock and shot him. And he subsequently died because of that. And she was charged with manslaughter. Okay, so you go through the court system thinking the court system is going to give you the justice that the family deserves, and then you get a conviction and you're like, okay, we're on the right path. We've got a conviction. And then you wait for the sentencing, and then you go to the law books, and you say, okay, she should be getting between 6 and 8 years. Now, that's nothing compared to the life that she took and the possibilities that Daunte could have lived up to and beyond his years. And so you think, okay, she took a life. Now, what is she going to get in for punishment in return for taking that life? Certainly, you hope it's more, you hope it's on the high end, the 8.5 years, and not on the less end, 6 years. But then a judge cries on the bench as well as the person who's convicted, and they come up with 16 months. And you're like, wait a minute, did I hear that right? So it's as if our lives don't, and it's not as if, it's clear our lives, Black lives, don't are not valued as much as anyone else's lives. And so the question becomes, what are we going to do about it? What to do when justice is denied? And so there are, there's state law, and then there's the federal law, and then there's civil penalty laws that come into play. And so at some point, I would think that Daunte Wright's family would, since in addition to the state conviction, they would seek civil penalties against the city of Brooklyn, Brooklyn Center. That's where she was. Trying to see what the name of the city was. Brooklyn Center, a suburb of Minneapolis. I would think that would be their next step, is that they should seek, if there are any federal laws or federal charges that could be brought, certainly try to bring those federal charges. And if there are civil penalties that can be brought against Kim Potter personally, and Brooklyn Center, the city, if it hasn't already been done, I would say seek as much justice legally as you have at your disposal. And sometimes we, as just regular people, we think that the system is going to work in our favor. And this is an example that it's not working just because it's supposed to work. You have to have the best legal representation, which means you got to have the money, which means you got to have the willpower to keep pushing. Because if you just lay back and expect that you're going to get justice because it's owed to you, you would be sadly mistaken. And I, for one, feel for the family, for Daunte Wright's family, because it seems like they are, as we all are, we're hoping that Kim Potter would be would be sentenced to more time, because that seems to be the only thing that people understand these days. If you take a life, then you in turn have to be punished by us taking your freedom away. And so that hasn't happened. Who can't do, especially a former cop, with all the friends and all the cronies, all the things that she has in the system, that she knows about the system. If she's sentenced to 16 months, the rules say that she only has to do what, 2/3 of that. So that means she'll be out. She could be out in less, of course, less than a year. I was watching the movie Fruitvale Station, I think it was called, and that was the movie that chronicled the shooting, the life and the shooting death of Oscar Grant in the San Francisco area back in 2008, I think it was, when he was shot and killed by a police officer, a BART, the Bay Area Rail Transit BART cop. And so same thing, the cop who shot Oscar Grant during it was an altercation that happened on the train New Year's Eve, and they were fighting on the train. The cops came, pulled some people off. Oscar, he was one of the people that was pulled off the train. He was laying face down on the BART platform, the train station platform, Fruitvale Station. That's why they named it Fruitvale. And he had his hands behind his back. He was no threat at all to the number of cops that were standing around, yet the police officer felt the need to pull his taser. He said, I was going to tase him. Well, why would you even tase him? He's face down on the ground. So he accidentally, the cop said, pulled his gun instead of his taser, shot Oscar in the back. Oscar died. Okay. That person, that cop was arrested, charged with manslaughter, sentenced to only 2 years, did less than 1 year, was out walking the street in 11 months. And a man is dead, and his child is without a father. His mother is without a son. These are things that people don't talk about. At least they don't let us know. That's what they're talking about when these trials are brought up, and the sentencing is brought up. And that's why it's important to me to try to figure out what is it that we can do. And so we have with us attorney David Dupree. So I'm going to bring him in. Hi, David. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Sorry. I got sidetracked with another conversation.
It's no problem. I knew it was something, because you're busy, and at the last minute you agreed to do this, and so I know you have little time, but essentially, David, we're talking starting out, and I know you have not a lot of time. Kim Potter sentencing. She's the former cop who was sentenced to what, 16 months for the shooting death of Daunte Wright. And so at this point, my question to you is that how does the family legally go further? Because we all felt like she in the guidelines said she should have gotten 6 to 8.5 years for a manslaughter conviction, but a judge says no, that's too much. She didn't mean to do it. She only is gonna get 16 months, which means she only has to really serve 2/3 of that. So she's probably not even gonna do a year. What is the next step legally that the family could do? Federal penalties, maybe civil penalties. What in your legal opinion is the next step?
Well, you're right on it. There are two possible avenues. One would be to civilly sue her for the loss in a what we call a wrongful death action or something like that, and see if there is possibly a way that the family could be compensated for the early termination of life. The other method would be to try to see if there's a federal provision that that would be applicable to this situation. The federal provision is probably going to be harder with her being a sole actor because it's going to have to be linked to something such as something either racially motivated or something discriminatory or something that shows some type of bias or something that linked to some kind of civil rights violation or something like that. So that one I think it might be harder to pull together, but not impossible. There are some great legal minds in the government who might can find something, or outside the government who might can find it something and present it to her family that could be pursued, or to the what do you call it, the attorney general that could be that they could pursue. Whether or not that will happen, who knows? But if they do something, they're going to have to probably hurry up. Most of those wrongful death statutes only have a year time frame to file something civilly, and so something would have to be done within probably a short amount of time. I forget the date that all that happened. So,
Yeah, it happened right around, and it's probably I think August will be a year because it happened right around the time that Derek Chauvin was convicted
convicted.
of murdering George Floyd. So yeah, you're right. And that's why it's important to have the best attorneys or legal um, counsel, because we as individuals don't know all the details. And I was saying before that we expect for the justice system, the legal system, to just deliver justice to us, and it just doesn't happen. You have to be willing. You got to push. You got to have the money for the legal counsel to do their part, and a lot of people don't have that. And
Right.
you spoke on um federal, that there, if it's federal charges, it could be brought. There has to be something, like his civil rights were violated, and have some type of evidence about that proves that. So I want to jump to the Mcmichael's federal trial, because of
But
course we know.
before you jump, let me just say one more thing quickly. The other thing that will have to be weighed in the balance is what would be obtained. Who knows whether or not there are resources or whatever that would benefit the family if they do win civilly. And so, or if there is of course, if there's a criminal conviction or whatever, there's always that possibility. But if there's let's say a fine or something that comes with it, can that fine be satisfied? Is there some assets that she or her family has that could be attached? All that kind of has to be weighed in the balance, because some of that may look good, but if it's not gonna do any good if it's just gonna be something you can hang on your wall, uh, is it really worth it? Especially on the civil side, since that's the cost of prosecution is going to come out your pocket. So
Right. And so you have to weigh all those things. It just seems to me that going back to the judge, it seems to me that, so the judge, it seems like some judges and some jurors, they seem to consider the feelings and the position of the person on trial more than the victim who was killed and is dead and is no longer here, and the family. It's like, would that judge, or would people be so willing to say, oh, she didn't mean to do it? If it was your son, if it was your child, if it was your family member, would you be so considerate of somebody who killed your family? I just don't think people value the lives of Black people in America, enough for them to consider that,
yeah, there's a whole science to what we call sentencing. uh, it really is. And there are those attorneys who really they just specialize in putting sentencing packages together and reviewing pre-sentencing reports and trying to dig into backgrounds that will help get a favorable sentence. Since a lot of times that's where the real, for lack of a better way of putting it, the real gain is in trying to get a favorable sentence. And I think somebody did a very good job to get her a favorable sentence. And yeah, they do have to consider all those things. They do have to take the person into consideration, their history, their background, prior bad acts, whatever the case may be, because at that point, it's all about Well, it's two things. One is about punishing the person appropriately, and then the other thing is that it's about punishing the so that it doesn't send a message to society that bad acts can gotten away with such and such a punishment. So all that has to be weighed in the balance.
So then you don't think it's just that, or how do you feel about judges having too much control to change up the written law? I mean, if somebody's convicted of manslaughter and the written law says, oh, they should be sentenced to 6 to 8.5 years. And then as a judge, I can say, I don't think that's right. I just want to give them this. Like, I think judges, and that's why, we could go down that rabbit hole. That's why we need to vote. That's why, you need to know the platform of these people who are representing you, because they're putting these judges in position, and it just, it's like a domino effect. Do you think judges have too much control over the process?
Well, that therein is the difference between federal judges and state judges. Most of your state judges and most of your states are elected or maybe sometimes appointed by governors or whatever the case may be, and your federal judges are federally appointed, and it's usually for life. And so they don't have to worry about looking over their shoulder. The federal judges don't have to worry about someone looking over their shoulder at their decisions and renderings as much, and they have strict guidelines that they do have to follow. Whereas the most state judges, there is a little bit more wiggle room that they get to do different things with, and sure, sometimes they will wiggle in the favor of their constituency and make sure that their constituency is satisfied, because they want to oftentimes get reelected or reappointed, or make that being a judge a vocation, as opposed to a elected position that they that they serve once or twice and then they're out. So it's kind of difficult. It's kind of difficult, and they really have to weigh that in the balance. But most states also, even though they do have the guidelines, they like I say, they do have those wiggle room places, and it's not as strict in most cases to where they absolutely have to. They usually do have some wiggle room where they can take other things into consideration, and consider various other factors. As long as they justify the factors and all that kind of stuff, they can usually get away with it. And a lot of times they don't have to put it in stone like in the federal cases. They have to, all of that has to be written out and justified. Any deviations from the federal guidelines and things like that. The state is supposed to be justified and written, but some states, they're not as stringent on how it's supposed to be written and justified and those kind of things. So it can get to be kind of a catch as catch can sometimes. So and the question after that is whether or not the decision would be appealed, and who would appeal it. Is the attorney general going to be so upset that they're going to appeal the decision and spend taxpayer resources to have that taken up and see if the Court of Appeal will agree with the judge or whatever the case may be? It's a daunting task to consider those factors, because when you start talking about taxpayer money, with the state judges and the state attorney generals, it becomes a very interesting game. There's that word again, the game.
And that leads me to his last name is Ellis, the attorney general in Minnesota. I can't remember I think it's Greg Ellis. Anyway, he has gone on record saying that although he he was disappointed in the sentencing, he has to stand by what was said. And so I kind of like, what you just said is kind of like they might have, there's more to it than what we see, of course. And so there's always other things to consider. And so that's why I want to move to the Mcmichaels, who were convicted and got those life sentences for the murder of Ahmaud
Aubrey.
Aubrey. Thank you.
Hmm.
It seems like that was in state court, and that seems like they were kind of course, hoping, the Mcmichaels and their defense team, they were kind of hoping they did not get convicted. And then when they realized, oh, we're going to get life in prison, then they tried to jump to the federal court and say, oh yeah, we want to plead guilty to federal charges, so we can now be in federal prison and spend our time there instead of in state prison, because they know federal prison is a better the facilities and how they're treated, and it's better. And so then it became, well, wait a minute, are they about to get away with, even though they're going to get life, if they can spend life in a federal prison with the golf course and a basketball course and all of this versus a state prison, they're about to get the best end of this deal. So then, it's like, right when you think, it's kind of like, when you kill a bug and you think, okay, let me go get something to scoop this bug up. And by the time you come back, the bug is gone. You're like, wait a minute, I thought I had killed this thing. I thought we had won. And now I'm like looking for justice. I'm looking for this bug because I thought I had killed it. So how can people kind of maneuver through the system and not end up being a victim? Because had the Mcmichaels been able to, and that judge, I mean, it was up to the judge again to say, I'm going to take your plea to the federal and let you spend your state time in federal prison. If the judge had done that, it was like all that we thought was going to happen for them to be punished was going to be like a slap in our face again. What can we do to make sure we're following, is there a certain procedure? Like, what can we do to make sure we're getting the full extent of justice as much as we can?
Well, unfortunately, well, I won't say it's unfortunate. One of the things that you have to do is continue to pray that the right people are in position and will do the quote unquote right thing. And it's just a prayer at that point. We can't negate the power of prayer and the power of believing that there is the forces within this world system that will work things out the way they are supposed to work out. I know that may sound kind of circular, but we have to believe that. And that's what our judicial system is founded upon and banks upon. And sure, there are those who can work the system and make it benefit them, if there is such a thing, to their benefit. But we just have to believe at some point that the things that are set in place are going to work out right. If they're not, we have to come back and fix them. That's why they are almost every couple of years revisiting the sentencing guidelines to make sure that things are appropriate and that the punishments meet the crime and things like that. So it's not an easy task, and there are those loop places. And so, like with the Mcmichaels, it becomes a delicate balance of whether or not the federal should be run concurrent with the state or vice versa, or whether or not they should run a consecutive. And it's already a life sentence. And so what's the benefit to be gained? Sometimes you try to wonder if there is a benefit to be gained by stacking them on top of each other. And then when you start putting in those factors again that go into sentencing and all that kind of stuff, you want to make sure that that everything is meets the crime. That is MEET meet, and that it METE meets, the situation.
Correct. Now, I know you're running out of time, and let me ask you this one thing. I'm going to kind of jump
Good.
to Brian Flores, the former Miami Dolphins coach, black head coach, who was fired, and he's filed a lawsuit against the team and the NFL.
NFL.
So my question, and you might have more to add to this. My question is now about the NFL has hired former Attorney General, is it Attorney General Loretta Lynch to defend them. The NFL has hired her against Brian Flores and his team. Are there some cases that you would not take on principle? Because as a black woman, if I was an attorney and the NFL came to me in this situation and said, you know what, I want you to represent us against this black man and all that story, I'm sure everyone knows it, but essentially me as a black woman in that instance, I would say, no, I'm not taking that case. Now, because here's the thing for me, David, all the NFL has to do, I'm trying to get us both back up here. All the NFL has to do is do the right thing and hire people based on merit and quit pretending, and you wouldn't have to, defend yourself against a lawsuit. But that's like too much like right. Now they're going to go get a black woman to fight this black man in court. And I'm like, come on, y'all. What is this really like? Why don't you just do the right thing and save time and money, and you wouldn't have to do this?
Well, I don't know. There's an oath that we take as attorneys. We take an oath to defend the law and to be a part of the system, so to speak, that is designed to protect and help those who are underprivileged or underserved or need the help, whatever, of good legal counsel. And so, she has to look and weigh all that kind of thing into balance. Sure, this is one, it sounds like, that would be an optional case that she could possibly reject. I don't know. In the compendium of circumstances, they probably made her a wonderful offer that she just probably couldn't. Well, she probably could have refused, but I can't blame her if she didn't, because that retainer is probably going to look really, really good. She's probably getting a wonderful hourly, and she's probably getting a staff that is going to be impeccable, and she doesn't have to pay for them. It's going to be paid for. It's not coming out of her pocket. Her pocket's going to be still filled, and she's going to sit at the top, and she's probably going to be able to get the best assistance around to help her with the case. I don't know. Would I take it? I don't know. I probably would. Sometimes you got to look for those situations that are opportunities of a lifetime. This one case could put her over the top for whatever she may not have gotten as a federal employee for however many years. The job security or financial security that she may have been lacking. This might be it for her. Everybody, well, not everybody. I'll say the majority of attorneys are always looking for that one defining case that, will define their legacy, so to speak.
Of course.
The credibility, or something that says that my life as a counsel, as legal attorney, mattered more than just the check I got or the some of the cases that I had. And this might be one. This might be one that defines it. It may be that in the defending that she ends up doing something great. It may look like on the outside that it's a wrong move, but it could end up being a very right move. As we know, a lot of times situations like this may never see what we would call an actual trial date. It may be resolved through negotiations or arbitration and things like that. Because at that point, is the name of the game is it's a civil matter, so it's going to be the name of the game is save your client money, and whatever it looks like that's going to save your client money, whether it's over a year or a period of years, that's what you're going to have to do. Bring out the best thing that's going to bring out the best result for your client, and so, if she can get that kind of win, whatever that looks like, then she will have done her job, and she'll be all right. She'll be all right. So it may look funny, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with her doing her thing, and I'm not mad at them because they did a good thing to, get someone of color and a female, to go try to arrest the situation. Now, the funny part is this. She may get privy to a whole lot of stuff in her investigation of this particular case that causes her to approach the NFL and make them change certain policies that we know nothing about and may never know nothing about, because she may not be able to disclose them as, the confidentiality agreement she's going to have with her client. But there may be certain things, especially when it comes to the employment of women of color in the NFL. I would think that this might be the winning thing that she comes out with. We may never know, because it won't be made public. So it's a good bet.
And you're you're right, because as soon as I try not to be emotional about my decisions, but what I just said was like emotional. I'm not being involved in that. I wouldn't do it. But and most men seem to be more reasonable and rational. And you just explained why it might be a good business move, and it might overall be better for us, and we don't even realize it. And so I appreciate you bringing that viewpoint, and that's why I invited you on, because just talking things out sometimes lets people realize, what, I might have done it this way, but it might have been better for this to have happened, and it will be all for the good. All things work together for the good who love God and are called according to his word.
That's it. Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate you. Is there anything else you want to add that I didn't ask?
No. I think I went back and I backtracked a couple of times, so I think I covered them.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on. If somebody wants to contact you for legal representation, how can they do that?
Well, my best way is always attydupree@aol.com. That's my favorite email address, attydupree@aol.com. People get on me all the time about it, but what the heck? I've been using it for years and it's worked. So attydupree@aol.com is my best way. Or you can also hit me at ddupree@Dupree Law Group. ddupree@dupreelawgroup.com. That works as well.
ddupree@dupreelawgroup.com.
That's it.
.com. All righty. So thanks again. And I'm sure you and the fam are doing well. You look healthy. So stay healthy.
God has blessed us. We had celebrated my 22-year anniversary yesterday, so it was a blessing.
Well, congratulations. 22 years, and I was there.
Yes, that's right. I remember.
I didn't make it, but you at least y'all did. At least y'all
did.
All right, so I will keep in touch, and We will see you next time.
All right. Thank you for the invite. It's definitely been my pleasure. I really appreciate you thinking about me and bringing me on to talk.
No problem. We'll see you next
Yeah.
time.
All right. Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye.
All right.
So that was David Dupree, attorney in Knoxville, Tennessee. And we actually grew up across the street from each other. So his family and my family are friends. So let me take out, because he's no longer there. So I'm Steffanie Rivers, and you're watching my video journal. So we've just been talking about what do you do when justice is denied, and how some things come about. But I just want you to take away from this that, just like David said, the law is not set in stone. Things change. They change from one party to the next. They change from one year to the next. And so you have to stay engaged. Don't just think just because you got the law passed or you made this thing happen, it's going to stay like that. Because especially when people don't agree with what the change was, they're going to be working behind the scenes and getting their little ducks in a row to get it changed in their favor the next time. So it's like a game of chess. You always got to be thinking about the next move that you need to make. So I hope that Daunte Wright's family is thinking about their next move and what they need to do to get justice for their son beyond this little frivolous 16 months, because that's some fragganaga bull. Okay. So at any rate, to find out more about the things that I care about, you can go to the written version of my journal. That's at eurweb.com. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe so that when I post new videos, you will be the first to know. Thanks, and you have a super day.